Hey, what's happening, peeps? We back again with another one. I got some great content I want to give you all today, and I appreciate y'all tuning in for today's episode. So let's get some housekeeping items out the way. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I appreciate all the feedback I've been getting. Keep it coming. As I say, let me know what you want to hear more of, because I want to deliver more of what you want to hear as well. So got another great show for you all. I think there's some content you guys will find some value in. And so what today's content is, previously I talked about just email etiquette. And so today I want to talk about kind of workplace meeting etiquette. And so, whether it's virtual or in person, over the phone, I just want to kind of give you all some tips or things to be aware of, so that, your meeting can be successful or run as successful as possible there. And so I'm going to go through these one by one and just talk about them, and just make sure that you're kind of thinking about these with the right mindset coming into the meetings that you're scheduling there. So the first thing I'm going to say should be obvious or a given, but be punctual, be on time, right? So you know what time the meeting is typically going to be if a meeting has been scheduled. So arrive on time. I would even say a minute or two early, right? Maybe not a few minutes early if it's a virtual meeting or something of that nature there. But be on time if it's a virtual meeting. If it's an in-person meeting, you may want to try to arrive a little bit early. Just to get seated, get set up if you have to set up your computer or desktop, laptop or something like that. If you are running late, tell the person you're running late, right? Nobody wants to be sitting in a room or sitting on a Zoom or Teams just waiting, wondering if the person's going to show up. It's really disrespectful to do that. So if you're running late, you need to, it's best practice. Let me say that. You don't have to do it, but it is best practice for you to email or message the people and say, hey, I'm running late, finishing up with the client, or finishing up an appointment or presentation, whatever the case may be, just so they can know, right? Because eventually, they may say, if you're 10 minutes late, I'm leaving, I'm out, right? I got stuff I got to get done, right? And so you may come in and they may be gone, or you may get on the Zoom call and they may already been gone. So, and if that's the case, they're upset, right? Because you wasted their time in that situation. So be punctual, right? The next one I just say is try to be prepared. If you're the presenter if you're presenting a topic, or you're the organizer of this meeting, then you need to be prepared. Send an agenda out prior to the meeting for what we're going to discuss, right? I just want to give you all an agenda to let you know what we're going to discuss, right? If you have it scheduled for certain time blocks, list those time blocks. Chris is going to talk about this for the first 15 minutes. Then we're going to go into a presentation between Chris and April, whatever the case may be, for 20 minutes, right? So have an agenda, send it out beforehand. It doesn't have to be something that's elaborate, right? You can even say, hey, these are the things we're going to talk about in this meeting, because you give the people who are going to be attending that meeting the opportunity to get in the right mindset or bring the right necessary information, so that this meeting can be as effective as possible there. So prepare in advance, be prepared in advance, right? Have some things ready to go, so you have you can actually have an effective meeting, more or less, on it as well. So the next one I'm going to have is, if you create an agenda, stick to the agenda, right? People get in meetings and they get sidetracked and they go off on different subjects, and people think, oh, it's fine, but it's actually kind of rude, right? And what I mean is, if you're saying I'm supposed to present after 15 minutes have passed in the meeting, and you're still talking about another topic, and now it's 30 minutes and I'm waiting, I'm feeling like I'm not even that important, right? And so, granted, discussions will happen, important things will have to evolve or be fluid on it as well, in the course of that meeting, but stick to that agenda, right? And what I would encourage you to do is, if possible, build in a little bit of a buffer So you have a little bit of a cushion in that actual meeting, right? So you can either say, hey, let's pause on that. We're gonna come back to that at the end. Or you can ask the other people, like, hey, if we push everything back 5 minutes, is that still going to be acceptable for you? We're in a good point in this discussion. And I think we're making some good breakthroughs there as well. But have an agenda, have a structure, follow the structure of the agenda, because it helps everyone move along in the process and know where we are, where we aren't in the particular discussion for today's meeting there. So the next one I would say, it depends, right? But I'll put it on here. You want to participate in the meeting actively and respectfully. So that's kind of twofold, right? And what I mean is, definitely try to participate if there's something that you have of value to say, right? If there's nothing that you have of value, then don't talk, right? Nobody likes people that are just spitting out what we call filler, meaning they're just regurgitating what was already said. And nobody wants you to regurgitate what they just said. It's kind of disrespectful if people kind of feel like you insult their intelligence there. But participate in the meetings. That's really what's going to help the meetings be successful, right? The reports, the data, that stuff is really not necessarily something that has to always be discussed, or a lot of times doesn't need to be discussed in a meeting because it's just the data. People can read it. But we're gathered here today so that we can have a discussion about these topics, and we can interchange dialogue about this, and hopefully collaborate for more success going forward there. So participate actively in the meetings, listen. If you hear something that is of value, definitely take notes, share it. But the important thing in the meeting is really, from the actual attendees, is actual participation, right? Then the person needs to know if they're, are you understanding what they're saying? Do you have questions? Is this something that's of value to you, of substance to you, that you can take back into your role for success, right? So participate in the meeting. It gives them the opportunity to make corrections if they have some things they can adjust on the fly, or even talk a little bit further, or send follow-up information, which I'm going to talk about as well, after the meeting as well. So, and then just avoid interruptions, right? Let people finish speaking. It's, again, like, if people are actively participating, you may, Zoom has a delay, Teams has a delay, or people in a meeting, they may both jump at the same time, but you should allow someone to actually have the floor so they can speak. You shouldn't both be speaking at the same time. So be respectful. The obvious other things in terms of avoiding interruptions, turn off your cell phone. If you feel like, if you're sick, you probably shouldn't be in the meeting, right? But some people come to the meeting and they cough and things like that. Cover your mouth. If you feel like you need to keep doing that, leave the room, right? Some people tap their pens often on there, and it's just kind of a bad habit that they have. Don't do that, right? I mean, try to avoid inner distractions, things that can disrupt the actual cadence or the flow of the meeting as much as possible there. So, if you're you can, I would even say, just come to mind, if you're in the meeting, it's a good idea to use your hand raise. If you're virtual, it's a good thing to use the hand raise tool as well. That can help, or the chat box on the virtual there as well. But that can help avoid some interruptions from questions or actually speaking out, participating in the meeting. So, talked about that. One of the pieces in terms of that, avoid interruptions, is just muting your microphone if you're in a Zoom, right? Or don't side chat someone in the meeting there. It's just annoying, and people will pick up on it, especially in person. People pick up on that pretty quick. But keep your mic muted, right? You can go on YouTube and video, like, Zoom funny videos where people didn't keep their mics muted or whatever the case may be. Keep your camera off if you're like doing something that's crazy that you probably shouldn't be doing on camera. Cut your camera off. Nobody wants to see you cooking or whatever, walking around in your gym clothes or with your shirt off, whatever the case may be. But definitely be aware of technology and avoiding disruptions in that as much as possible there. So the next one here is just body language and facial expressions, right? You know, pay attention to those for yourself, and be aware of those in the room there as well, because this is really, you can, lose the kind of disengage or engage by your body movement, and that can determine how the actual course of the meeting flows. If everybody looks like they're not engaged, the person may flow through the meeting and it was supposed to be an hour, but they'll just get it done in 35 minutes there as well. If you look like you're annoyed, right, then your manager may have a problem with that because you look like you don't want to be here, right? Your facial expressions can make you look like you're disrespected, you're offended, right? You can't believe that. And so you may come up with some facial expressions or utter disgust. People do a lot of times when news comes out with the company. So just be aware of your actual body language, eye contact. Don't sit here and stare down at your computer. If someone's presenting, try to make eye contact with them. If you're in the room, if you're on camera, try to look at the screen as much as you can. Don't look away and look like you're unenthused on it as well. I get it if you're on camera. Sometimes the way your cameras are set up, you may need to look over there. But just try to look. Make it look like you're paying attention or look engaged in the actual meeting there as well. So I just got maybe a few more here. So I think three more actually. So the next one is just take notes, right? So if you bring a notepad or pull up a notepad on your computer, your laptop there and type, you don't have to write down, full on paragraphs, but just kind of highlight important topics, important things that were said, a statement that was said. I like what they said about this. This was something that I could use later. Or this something I can go back and review, kind of the procedures on that, because that's good information for it as well. But it helps you kind of summarize what that actual meeting took place. And if you're running the meeting, it's typically good if you can send out kind of a recap as well in that actual meeting there. So the next one I have is kind of a follow-up to that. So if you are, running the meeting and you send it out, kind of a recap or a summary, talk about whatever the next steps are, the follow-up that needs to be done, right? If it's going to be a follow-up meeting, it's going to be scheduled to revisit this particular item or topic or discussion. If you need such and such to actually do this and somebody else to do that, right? Talk about the follow-up steps that are going to happen, right? Whatever's going to be the next step or the continuance on that. Whoever's going to be leading the next discussion, what were some good takeaways from that meeting that you guys want to discuss further in future meetings. But make sure you highlight, that and who's going to do what in terms of what work is being assigned out, if there's going to be work assigned out from that meeting there as well. And then the last one I have here is just respect people's time, right? It should one of those things that should be obvious as well. I think a lot of these should be obvious or given, but respect people's time, right? That goes with you showing up on time, but that also means that you don't run meetings over. You don't schedule a 30-minute meeting with someone and then talk 45 minutes, right? You don't schedule an hour meeting and then go an hour and a half, right? So if everything flows and it turns out there was less, it took less time than you expected, give people time back, right? A good way is to do this is just say, hey, I want to give you all some time back in your day, but just want to check before I do that. Is there any questions of anything you want to revisit or go back over? And we can cover that as well. But be respectful of people's time. Don't extend stuff more than it needs to be done. And if it ends up taking less time than you originally thought, great, right? But just be mindful of that, and don't schedule meetings on time that people have blocks on their calendars. That's another rude thing that you can do, right? And that goes into just being respectful of people's time, right? If you look on my calendar and you see I've got an appointment or a meeting scheduled at this particular time, your meeting doesn't trump mine unless you've reached out to me directly to discuss that. And so it's important for you to reach out to someone if you really need to meet with them, first and foremost. And then they can tell you, if they don't have any time, where they can fit you in or make an adjustment to their schedule there as well. So it's really important to be respectful of people's time. Don't keep changing meetings around, moving times consistently. Like, pick one time and stick with it. Don't move the meeting 4 different times without any explanation of the why that meeting is being moved, right? Another thing is, just if you're having people fly in, right, then you need to have the meeting when you're having a fly in, right? I think it's probably one of the most egregious and disrespectful things that you can do is have someone fly in on the company's dime for a meeting and then move the meeting, right? You just wasted their time. You just wasted the company's resources. And it just kind of makes you look ignorant or stupid. I don't know how else to say that as well. But be respectful of people's time. Definitely in meetings, thank everyone for participating. Thank everyone for, joining, and be welcome to feedback, good and bad. Because really, if you're running a meeting, you want to know, what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And if you're in a meeting, you want to know what's working, what you're feeling like is important and what's not important. So share that feedback as well. So that's all I got, in terms of the things I just wanted to talk about from meetings and scheduling meetings there in the workforce, just to have good etiquette, if you will, in that aspect of it. And so let me know in the comments again if I missed anything. It's just kind of good etiquette when it comes to scheduling meetings. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you didn't like of anything that I said in today's episode here as well. And keep it coming. Let me keep hearing the feedback from you all. I love it. I appreciate it. I'm very receptive of it, the good and bad. And as always, if I'm lit and you lit, then we lit. So stay lit. I'm out.